Hi, English 1301 folks. It's Dr. E, and I'm here to share information about week 13. Initially, I had on the syllabus that you should watch this video and then an additional video to kind of get some ideas about your multimedia project, which is coming up in a few weeks. I'm just going to combine those two. Since you have a lot going on, there's no need to have separate videos for you to watch, so I'm going to try to get everything in this single video. But of course, if you have questions, you can always let me know. So let's take a look at this week. So again, those videos were just collapsing into one because, this week is a little bit light in terms of what you're seeing on the page. The big deal is our consultations, right? So you were to have signed up for those consultations in WebEx, follow those instructions, and those are just 20-minute sessions for us to meet face to face and to talk about your paper portfolio, right? Because we've done the peer reviewing, you've done the revisions and edits, you're going to send it to me, you've already sent it to me, right, on Friday. I'm looking it over and I'm going to email you feedback, right? I want you to look at that before we meet so that you can, determine if you have any questions or concerns before we meet one-on-one. But those consultations are really just a time for us to talk through that assignment. They're not necessarily a time for us to talk about the general concerns you might have about the class. We may need to make a separate meeting schedule for that because we want to talk about the portfolio because that is a big assignment. There may be some minutes here or there that we can kind of touch base about a few things, but I want you to generally just look at those consultations as 20 minutes of us addressing your paper portfolio so that you can get the best possible grade. Please note that I do have back-to-back meetings, so I may have to say at about the 18 or 19-minute mark that I need to let you go so I can meet with the next person. So it's really going to be important for us to meet with each other on time, and that's also why we did the testing last week of your audio and video capabilities with WebEx so that we're not getting bogged down by any of the technical issues and we're not waiting to kind of join one another in the meeting area because you're experiencing some trouble with technology, right? So just a heads up about the scheduling of that, okay? So after you and I meet, you're going to revise and edit your work, based on everything that we talk about, and then you'll prepare that final version for submission, which is going to be due next week, okay? And then I want you to start working on your multimedia project plan. So this is a way for you to start really thinking about what ideas you have and start planning your actual project before implementing it. And this is just a way for me to kind of see what your ideas are and give you any feedback before you fully engage and get into your project. I don't want you starting a project and being halfway through and then hearing from me that, oh, maybe you need to do something a little different to meet the guidelines of this assignment. So the plan is just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, and then next week we'll talk more about the multimedia project and the plan will be due next week. But the big deal, of course, next week is submitting that final version of your paper portfolio, right? Okay, so in order to kind of get us thinking about the project plan, I'm going to show you the guidelines for the multimedia project in general. And so what I want you to think about with this project is it's just a creative way to address a topic or a theme or something that we've discussed this semester related to food, right? Because food is kind of our overall overarching topic. So you can think about, one of the posts that you wrote about food in general. You can think about, one of the things that we've read or one of the authors, something that really kind of interests you and something that you want to explore a little bit, more deeply. So if you take a look at the project guidelines, it is 150 points, so it's a pretty large grade, but it is supposed to be fun. It's a fun way to kind of wrap up towards the end of the semester instead of having yet another, discussion post or essay or something of that nature. This is just a little bit more creative. You do have to do some writing, right? So in addition to the creative component, you will have a 3-paragraph, I would say it's kind of a mini essay that accompanies your project, okay? But what I want you to think about is that this is a way for you to explore your creative side, but you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be, a stellar graphic designer in order to just try something new. So sometimes I have students who are concerned they really want to do a painting that somehow connects to the topic of the semester, but they're not great painters. You don't have to be. My grading of your project is essentially, are you following the guidelines? And is it clear that you put time, energy, and effort into this project? You didn't scribble it down at the last minute, right? So I have had people put a lot of time and energy into like 3D models or something like that. They don't look super awesome, amazing at the end, but I can really tell that people have put a lot of time into the work, and that's what we're going for, right? So it's reflecting a topic or something that you want to engage with in terms of food as our topic, but also putting that time and effort into it as well, okay? So if you take a look, I have provided you with some examples here. Now, these are not meant to limit you. They are just to provide you with kind of what have people done in the past, just to get your creative, mind going. So one is a link to a video, which I'll pull up in just a second, and the other is a link to a blog that I curate with some past examples of assignments. Some of them are from literature classes and whatnot, but they still give you a sense of, how to do this in a creative way. So I'm going to open this first link to the video and just give you a few seconds to watch it. This is a past student from a British literature class.
So I'm walking down the street like I always do. Then I see this girl looking oh so cute. I'm like, but I don't know what to say. So I pass her up every day. Like maybe she'll notice and say hello. I don't know, but I'ma try my best. Oh no, oh yo.
Okay, so this is Anthony, a past student of mine. And so what he did is a visual representation of a short story that we read in class called Araby. And so that's his little brother and another little girl in his neighborhood. So you can see that I'm not looking for perfect acting if you want to create a video. It's just showing that you are, thinking about the topic, thinking about some of these different ideas in a creative kind of way. Right. And so in addition to this video, he submitted some paragraphs about the process and why he chose to do a video. And he wrote the lyrics to the song and performed that. So you can do a video, but it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So I'm going to go back to the handout that kind of shows you the different options for the multimedia project, and click on the link to the blog, my Lone Star Voices blog. And so there are some different options, just to kind of look at what other people have done. So a past student in my Brit Lit class, Jocelyn, created a great piece of artwork. This is her depiction of the monster Grendel in the text Beowulf, so she's a pretty great artist. But again, you don't have to be a great artist, right? Another student, Veronica, she loved doing origami. So what she did is she created an origami version of the dragon in Beowulf. And it took days, y'all. It took days for her to do this. So what she did is she depicted the different steps involved, right? So she's not just submitting a picture of the final project. She's submitting kind of a step-by-step and how it went. And then in the paragraph, she expanded. She had to get some of her siblings to help her. It took way longer than she imagined it would, but the outcome was really pretty amazing, okay? I want to also show you, what a recent student did to kind of think about food. And so this is one of my students who wanted to kind of share and explore a Tongan dish, from her background. And so she just took pictures of the process of cooking it, right? So she showed all the different ingredients, right? The different process, so that the people who, are not familiar with this dish or this kind of cooking could get a real sense of that. She could have done a video as well. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to do something like that, but in a different kind of format, you can do a video. The only thing, y'all, that is going to limit you in your choice is it needs to be in some way something that you can post on D2L. So if it's a video, it needs to be posted to YouTube, just because if you post a movie file, not everybody's going to be able to open that and view it and respond to it and engage with you about it. So YouTube is something that everybody can access. So it's, it needs to be a link that you supply, say, in the text box, right? So we're going to use the discussion post area, and you're going to post your, in the text box, your 3-paragraph discussion of the project. And then if you needed to provide a link, you would do that in the text box. Most of you are probably going to have something to upload, right? So like this student with her dish, she uploaded this as a PowerPoint, right? The young woman who did the the origami, she uploaded it as a PowerPoint so that people could go through and see those different steps. Jocelyn, uploaded her artwork as a JPEG. Right, so it needs to be accessible to all students so that they can get a sense of, or they can open those different kinds of files, right? They can see your work. That's going to be really important. Also, I need to be able to open it to provide you with a grade, right? So again, make sure that you're following the right formatting guidelines. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the handout just so we can make sure that we're all on the same page about this. So the requirements, it needs to be focused on a particular issue or text that we've covered in the class. So do you want to talk about a food memory? Do you want to really look at some of the things that Amy Choi shared in her article? Was food as identity really important to you? So you have a lot of freedom about your overall topic, right? It can be something within a piece that we read, or it can be something that was from a discussion post. It just has to be related to food and connect in some way to what we've done this semester, right? So if you look, in addition to the creative part, you need to write 3 in-depth paragraphs, right? This ends up being quite a big chunk of the overall grade, so just something to consider. After revising and editing your paragraphs, you're going to copy and paste that to the text box area of the discussion board in D2L, right? So some of the same stuff we've been doing all semester. So the first paragraph is really just a description, right? What it means and why you chose to go with whatever medium. So why did you choose a video? Why did you choose claymation? Why did you choose, to create some sort of game for a topic that you wanted to address, right? So for example, if you wrote a collection of poetry, you need to explain why you went with poetry, to give us a sense of it. If you made a PowerPoint or a blog, explain why your project is significant, right? Paragraph 2 is really pretty important. This is where a lot of people in the past have lost quite a bit of credit, right? So I want you to be really aware that paragraph 2 is important, because that's where a lot of what we've learned about in terms of writing is going to come in, right? So you need to cite your text or texts in connection to your project, right? So if you're thinking about food as identity and you create some sort of piece of artwork, well, you need to give credit to Choi for her ideas about food as identity. Or if you wanted to think about Kluger and why we eat, you have to connect in some way to things that we've read this semester. It doesn't have to be multiple readings, but you have to show that in some way the research that we did, throughout the semester is impacting how you are now producing this, piece of art or video or whatever it is that you've created, right? And y'all remember that PowerPoints can be just as creative. You can do an in-depth PowerPoint about a particular, food or topic, and still be creative with that, right? It just means that you have more work to do in terms of the revisions and edits, because you don't want to post a PowerPoint that has a lot of written issues with it. So just a heads up there. So paragraph 2 is pretty important. You need to offer quotes and page numbers where relevant if they're included in the original. And then paragraph 3 is explain why. Why is this relevant? Why is it a relevant project connected to what you've learned? How does it connect to the course, to your understanding, right? So just kind of give us an idea. These paragraphs are meant not only to be another way for you to write something and express and communicate, but it's also giving us context. So if you just post a piece of artwork, people will look at it and go, oh, that's really neat, but they may not have any idea like what influenced you. What did you read? What do you know? What are you trying to share with us, right? So those paragraphs are giving some context to us as your audience. Okay. If you look at the grade distribution, 25 points are your plan, your multimedia project plan, which we'll get to more of that next week. I will post that for you to complete. 100 points are the actual project and short essay, and then 25 points out of those 150 are going to be related to your discussion participation. You need to respond to at least 5 people, right, by the due date and time, which is, it's not for a while, but something to consider. So you need to engage with one another, not only with the people who respond to your project and your post, but you need to go out to 5 other people and, just ask them some questions, talk about, what you're seeing and what your reaction is to their work. It's not just a place for you to go, hey, that's really great. Remember about your peer review stuff? So this isn't peer review, but it's you offering some insights and some feedback, connecting with one another, okay? If you have any questions, you can always post in that Q&A discussion post area. If you have specific questions about the project, you can always email me, or we can talk during office hours. All right, y'all, good luck. I can't wait to meet and see all of you this week and talk about your writing. Bye.